Testing 1, 2. Testing 2, 3.
So we're going to call the meeting to order tonight at 6 o'clock. This is the Budget Advisory Committee meeting. And this is our first meeting, so welcome everybody. With that, we will ask for a roll call, please.
Member Pineda? Member Dillard?
Here.
Member Linez?
Here.
Is that correct?
Linez, yeah.
Member Christie?
Here.
Member Heinzinger?
Here.
Okay, so our next item is our conflict of interest. Any committee member or staff who has a direct conflict of interest on any scheduled agenda item to be considered is to declare their conflict at this time. Are there any conflicts tonight? Okay, so we will go on to our presentations. So our first presentation is I wanted to just let each of the committee members introduce themselves and maybe give a little bit about your background, maybe with finance or budgets, and then why you wanted to be on this committee. So we will start with Member Pineda.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'm excited to be here. Thank you to the city for the opportunity. I'm Dr. Janet Nunez Pineda. I have a doctorate in educational leadership, born and raised here in Riverbank. I'm a very proud citizen. My family, my parents moved here when I was 1 year old. And since then, I have actively been very active in the community. And my passion has always been to give back. And so one of the many capacities through my professional career includes very strong fiscal management, overseeing over $100 million in state and federal dollars over the last 20 years or so. That includes most of the roles in public service. So it includes grants, it includes special allocated dollars, education dollars, mental health dollars, social service, nonprofit, including federal dollars at the level of the United States Department of Education. So really excited to be here and hoping to serve as an advisor and a thought partner to continue to help our city and our community grow.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So Member Christie.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Michael Christie, and I was born and raised in Modesto and moved here at Riverbank in 2007. And my background is I'm a small business owner. I've worked on nonprofits, a couple of different nonprofits with Councilmember Fossey. We did some great things for the schools. But I have built my business from the ground up. I adhere to a very strict budget. I'm old-fashioned conservative when it comes to spending. And I really just want to see, Riverbank continue to grow in the right way. I want to see, the budget continue to work for everybody in the community. One of my passions is giving back. I was a parent PTA volunteer all through Crossroads Elementary School with 2 boys from kindergarten all the way through. Followed them to Hustac for the foundation PTSA there, then the Enoch's Eagle Foundation too for 4 years. So I enjoy serving, working with nonprofits and doing whatever I can to work with everybody here. I look forward to building relationships and working with everybody here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome. Member Dillard.
Hi, good evening. Seabree Dillard. I also serve on the Parks and Rec Committee, Advisory Committee, but I have lived here since right before COVID 2020 came in January and boom, hit in February. And so kind of hunkered down and didn't really become too involved in the community during that time. So as I've come out of it, I wanted to get in touch and make sure that I'm as involved as I can be. Right now, I'm on the site council for Crossroads Elementary. I'm on the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, and then being a part of the Budget Advisory Committee kind of makes sense. I have a bachelor's in accounting and a master's in business, and worked in the accounting industry in various fields. Currently, I'm the senior accountant for the Yosemite Community College District, and taken that on in February, and I've really enjoyed it. I do have a background in nonprofits, so I'm familiar with grants and whatnot, but I think that getting an opportunity to get in here and see how things are done from the city's side, the community's side, and then on the business side, I think is going to be a really nice combination. Thank you.
Member Reyes?
So my name is Kimberly Linus. I also moved here close to COVID time, 2020. I've been a compliance auditor for 8 years now. I also just received my Juris Doctorate this summer. And being a newish mom, I've really wanted to get involved in public service and see the city side of accounting as well. Being a compliance auditor, most of our clients are union, so I'm familiar with, funding and the accounting side of business, but seeing the city side, I've been interested in. So yes.
Thank you and welcome. And Member Heinzinger?
Yes, good evening. I'm a retired educator, teacher. Recently moved to Riverbank, but just interested in the community, been active in a couple local organizations, and over my time, I've been active in a number of educational, city and county, different organizations and groups, and seen their sometimes very complicated and detailed accounting. I know as a person or like as a member of a family, you do what I call ledger accounting, and it's money in, money out. And I think sometimes people, when they see the governmental structure, it's much more difficult to understand than and then people get caught on some minor thing and there's like a bigger, more complex structure. And it's great that everyone has so much background and things like that in terms of looking and understanding all the budget. And I'm just hopeful that we help the community continue to thrive, that there's money and funding for parks and, city resources and trails and public, all that, that it doesn't ever become like sometimes communities end up not having funding to do those things or end up with difficult choices. So to make as many good choices so that there aren't as many difficult choices in the future would be my angle or bent on being on the committee.
Thank you so much. And also sitting on our committee is our council member Fossey. She will not be a voting member, but she is here to be almost like a mentor liaison to the committee, and maybe advise of some information that relayed from the council. So Council Member Fossey.
Thanks, Tammy. I first served on the first Budget Advisory Committee, so I'm pretty excited about that and excited that it's back. We did a lot of good the first couple, 3-4 years, and so I'm looking forward to how you can help council. I also worked for the city of Modesto for 17 years as an analyst, which my main job was budget. So I have a lot of familiarity with how government works, how grants work, all that type of stuff. So if you ever need some assistance, understanding how things work, I'm here for you too. And anytime you like to sit down and one-on-one, have coffee, and just talk about what we're doing here and everything. I'm looking forward to getting to know all of you and see what we can come up with.
Thank you. So I just want to say a quick note. Thank you all for volunteering to be on our committee. We are very eager for this committee, and I know the council has been very eager for the committee. We want to be transparent to our residents, and getting that input from our residents is very important. And sometimes those fresh set of eyes, that one little suggestion can bring something for us. So that would spark, that tumbleweed into finding different avenues for us to look at. So I want to express my appreciation for you guys tonight. And I know it's a little intimidating because we are on Zoom and we are broadcasting, but I really encourage you guys, to be engaged with us. And tonight is strictly really meant to be almost like an orientation for us. This is new to all of us. We didn't used to have to host these meetings at a public level, but there was some legislation change, and in July, this came into effect. So with that, I still want to encourage you guys to all be engaged and know, like, it's always good to ask questions, right? I love those questions, and I want you guys to understand. So just wanted to say again, welcome and thank you. Tonight, I will be chairing the meeting, but at future meetings, we will be, either tonight or at a future meeting, we will be appointing a chair and a vice chair. So, and that is later on in the agenda. So the next important thing with our meetings being published or aired on Zoom and our YouTube, we do have some rules that we have to follow. So our city clerk, Gabby, will be presenting an overview presentation on the Brown Act, of the Ralph M. Brown Act. Oh, no, you can.
It might not even reach.
Yes.
I might not reach. You can ask me for it. Well, hello, everyone. I know most of you already. I am only here for tonight. Yes, just for tonight. Yeah. I'm only here tonight to present to you an overview of the Brown Act and meeting procedures. Like Tammy mentioned, we didn't used to have to televise these meetings. They were more of a roundtable kind of meeting. And unfortunately, SB 707 passed in July. It took effect. And now we have to have two-way remote participation for our public. So that means that anytime we have a meeting of a governing board, we must have two-way remote participation. If we don't have the ability to have our residents speak to us or hear us, we have to stop the meeting. Tammy and your chair, who you decide to choose, and then your AV staff that's here today, will have the policy on what happens if we ever lose audio. Now, if we lose video, we can still continue as long as they can hear us. They can hear us, we can hear them, we can still continue. It's just a matter of the procedure that we would take. And like I said, that will be shared with your chair, and what happens if that, should that happen, our AV and Tammy and your clerk, Becky. So with that, we're gonna go over the Brown Act and meeting procedures. Now, oh, it's not even on. Okay. So the purpose of tonight is for you all to understand what the Brown Act is, your responsibilities, meeting procedures, public participation, and communications. So what is the Brown Act? It's California's open meeting law. It was enacted in 1953, mandating that local government bodies like city councils, boards, and committees conduct their business in open public forums. The purpose, it guarantees that public's right to advance notice of meetings and opportunities to voice opinions on government actions. It creates and shows transparency, openness, and creates public trust. A meeting occurs when a majority discusses committee business in person or electronically. Now, I want you to remember electronically. I'm going to share some examples of what should not happen. Now, there are a lot of instances where you might find yourself debating whether something is a Brown Act violation, or can I do this or can I not do that? Can I speak to this other member? So I'm going to go through a couple of scenarios, and you can ask questions as we go. Example number one is an email chain. The scenario is the Budget Advisory Committee has 5 members, a quorum is 3 of you. Member A emails member B. I think we should recommend increasing the parks budget by $100,000. Member B replies, I agree. I'll ask member C what they think. Member B then emails member C. Member A and I both support increasing the parks budget. What do you think? Member C responds, I agree.
Although 3 of you were not in the chamber or in a public setting, a majority of you, which was 3, discussed business outside of the public meeting. So this is considered a serial meeting and is a violation of the Brown Act. Any questions? Example number 2. You can create a meeting through a staff member. A committee member calls city staff and says, "Can you ask the other committee members whether they support option A before the next meeting?" Staff then contacts each committee member individually and reports back. Member B supports option A, member C prefers option B, member D is undecided. The first member now knows how the majority feels before the public meeting. This is also a violation of the Brown Act, and city staff should never be used as a communication between any of you. Now, should you feel like you have a question from Tammy, from a council member, from any other staff member, you are able to ask questions. Please ask lots of questions. But it is our job not to report what we discuss with either of you or any of you to the other, right? Or how you feel about an item that's coming before you to discuss. Example number 3. Social media. I know we're in a time where social media is very, very, very active. To me, it's a double-edged sword. It could be good and it could be bad. So here's another scenario. A committee member posts on Facebook, "I hope the Budget Advisory Committee recommends funding a new splash pad." Another committee member comments, "I agree." A third committee member replies, "Count me in too." 3 of you have already discussed what you feel and what you think of a splash pad on social media. Now, another way that you could do this is by not necessarily commenting if you love a post now, or you like a post. That is considered you agreeing or showing how you feel about an item, right? So unfortunately, this is a violation of the Brown Act, and it could come back and someone could say, there was 3 committee members already on social media talking about how they're gonna advise that we get a new splash pad.
I will tell you, I have fallen into this trap maybe 2 or 3 times. And now I just don't respond. And that's just the best way to do it. If you do see that others are responding, I would suggest you call either Tammy or Gabby and let them know so that nobody violates it. But it is hard because I'm a big Facebook girl, but it's better to just not even make a comment. My advice.
Do not engage. Yeah, go ahead.
Or if you see something like any type of post is saying, come to a meeting and attend, that's still engaging? That's not right. I mean, because I don't like when people go after the council negatively on social media. And I've spoken out about it here, but is it proper to say, well, stop complaining and just come to a meeting, show up to the meeting and just say it to them in person,
No,
is it just better off not engaging, period?
no, as long as you're not discussing items that you will be discussing as a budget advisory committee. Now, if you're referring to a resident making a comment about a city council meeting or bashing a council member,
Right.
like you said, you are in your right to defend or speak up. This is only regarding items that come for discussion before the budget advisory committee. So you're welcome to always share or repost anything that the city posts, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that you're for it or against it. Now, when I say commenting or liking or loving, there are instances where I'll give you another scenario. So maybe that'll make it a little bit easier to understand. You, Michael Christie, share that you want to support a splash pad in District 4 because, that's been in the works and we've heard that from you in public comment. Now you share that and then Dr. Pineda goes and loves it because she lives there in District 4 too. And then you got Mr. Heisinger who likes it. If I'm a resident 3 of you already are saying that you want a splash pad in District 4. Does that kind of make sense? Okay. So, but if you repost the Budget Advisory Committee meeting agenda, come join us, come voice your opinions, share with us what you feel, how you think we should do things. And then Dr. Pineda likes it and Mark loves it. It's just a repost of the meeting. That was a good question. So email and technology. The committee will always be blind copied on emails where there is a quorum of 3 or more. Let's say Tammy needs to find out if all of you are available for a meeting outside of this meeting tonight. You will all be blind copied to find out if you can attend a meeting, because she needs to know individually from you what date works, what time works. You will never be copied or included or to an email unless there's only 1 of you or 2 of you. It can never be 3 of you. That way your responses only come back to Tammy or those she meant to get the response back, not any of you to each other. I believe you all got the email for the agenda for tonight. All of you were blind copied. Avoid replying to all in group texts, polling members, and if in doubt, always contact the city staff first. Now, a group text or a chain is not allowed discussing, any business. What is allowed is for all of you to be at a ribbon cutting tomorrow night at Sutter. Tomorrow day, yeah, tomorrow at 9. That is not business. You're not going to be talking about anything that you're discussing about the budget advisory. If you're at a city event for a market, a workshop, a state of the city, you are allowed to all attend. Agenda and meetings. Regular meeting agendas will generally be posted and emailed to you 72 hours in advance. Meetings procedures. The agenda we have for you tonight, like Tammy said, is mostly orientation based on it's our first meeting. So with that being said, I know it's already been brought up about conflict of interest. That is 90% most likely going to get removed. Most of you will not have to deal with conflict of interest on something you're discussing because you are not making a decision on it. It goes to council. You're an advisory committee to council. So there should not be a conflict of you on any items before you. But we'll discuss that if it gets removed from the agenda. The order will be called to order by your chair, which we will hopefully choose, or your vice chair. Roll call by your clerk, public comment via Zoom and in person, business and adjourn. The chair does have the authority to rearrange the order of the agenda at their discretion. What does that mean? The agenda is put out today. Let's say I wasn't here in time to present tonight and you guys want to move on with the business. Your chair can decide to rearrange the order to accommodate me coming in late. If you have somebody presenting to you, like I know you will be having department presentations. If a staff member cannot get here until later in the meeting, but we already posted the agenda with them being first, but they're not going to get here till later, the chair has the ability to rearrange the order of the items. Any questions?
I did want to go back to the conflict of interest. I'm not sure if my position on Parks and Rec might at any point create anything like that. I know you said it, we don't, as far as voting, but just
Right.
to throw that out
Yeah,
there.
and that's good that you bring that up. So I mentioned to Tammy that because we actually never had conflict of interest in the old committee. But now it's becoming like, blurred lines on when you can discuss things. So I will be checking with legal. I am not the attorney for the city. But I will be checking with legal to make sure that, like I said, I'm 90% sure that, you all wouldn't have a conflict of interest, even if you're serving on other boards or other committees, because we are not making a decision here. We are advising and recommending to council what should be done. Yes. But planning commission and who is their other board, they do. Because they do have authority and power to make decisions.
I had another question, a clarifying question about if and when the chair needs to rearrange the agenda. Is there a rule on how we would communicate that to the public who's either zooming in?
Yeah.
Maybe they're planned around attending the agenda based on what they saw and.
Yes. So let's say, for example, we start the meeting and we notice that whoever was presenting was not, the chair will have to communicate at the beginning of the meeting, there is an agenda change. Item 6.1 will be heard or presented at the end of the meeting, or if you're wanting to move an item up, you would say the same thing. Item 10.1 is moving up to the beginning of the meeting due to conflicting time constraints for the presenter or things like that. It would have to be stated at the beginning of the meeting. So you have that ability, but you also do have to keep in mind that the public that's on Zoom usually like chimes in or chimes out if they know that an item was going to be on the agenda first, and then they may come back and say, you had it on the agenda as item 1.1, and then you moved it. Unfortunately, we can't do that. It might cause grief from the residents, but it is in the government code that the chair has the ability to do that. Where were we? Public participation. The public may attend in person and comment in person or on Zoom. The limit is 3 minutes. We do have a timer that your clerk will keep. We do have only general public comment, which is anything that is not on your agenda. And then we do have public comment on any items that are up for discussion. Now, a presentation like me presenting right now would not be something that we would allow the public to comment on, or you introducing yourselves, or any presentations that Tammy may bring forward or that are in the agenda as presentations. Those we do not get comment on. Public comment, we have discussed that typically it's only in items that are in the purview of the Budget Advisory Committee. Now, anything in the city could be in the purview of the Budget Advisory Committee, right? Any project, any item, any concern could come back and say it's in the purview of your committee. So again, it's only 3 minutes for each speaker. We do not let your time be allotted to another member. So somebody can't come and use 1 minute and give their other 2 minutes to someone else. We will keep a respectful, we will be respectful of all speakers, and we ask that all speakers be respectful of the committee. We do not allow for foul language. If there is foul language, we will, your clerk, we don't have a city attorney, your clerk will have to let them know that foul language is not allowed and to be respectful. They will be warned once, they will be warned twice, and then be asked to leave. Again, SB 707 requires that meetings have a two-way remote participation. And we kind of went over that already.
I have one other question.
Yeah.
You alluded to this in the social media, but it's coming to mind now around public comment. Is there a statement, like a boilerplate statement that you all could even provide us on, other than, of course, we can encourage the public to come and join us at the meeting as we're stating. But one example already, to your point, after the city posted the Budget Advisory Committee members, I had my own people that are in my social media forward that to me and then ask, so does that mean I go to you to complain about, growth and expenses, right? Of course, I didn't respond, but I would much rather prefer to always lead on the air of caution, right? So yes, not engaging is always probably better, but I want to be able to effectively both support the community and the advisory committee. So if there's a boilerplate language or something that helps us remind the public that they are part of this process, where, rather than over explaining our role.
Yeah, we can provide that for you. It's no different than what we share for city council, right? We always direct our city council to direct the residents to the appropriate department head or the appropriate department. And it's no different than when someone calls, administration and says, I'm complaining about your street sweeper not coming in and sweeping my street. Our thought is right away, I'm sorry that you feel that way. Let me direct you to that department, right? Because I have no control over the street sweeper. I'm the city clerk. I would suggest that you all do the same and say, do you guys have a concern? Go to the council meetings, write your written comments to the, talk to your city staff, talk to your council members. If it's within our purview of the Budget Advisory Committee, come to our meeting. But we can certainly come up with something for you guys to respond that you want to use. We will do the same for meetings if we need to write like a script for you guys to something.
3 to 5 talking
Yeah.
points, because there are many options, right?
Yeah.
They can come in. We are advisors. But maybe just something.
And we encourage the public to get involved, right? But there's a difference between the public that gets involved outside of here and the public that actually comes to meetings and lets their voice be heard. And I've always said, you can write your comments, you can send them in, you can mail them, you can email them, you can come bring them, by hand. You can join on Zoom, you can join on phone, you can watch on YouTube, there's so many ways that you can get involved and know what's going on in your city. And not always, reaching out to all our committee members, all our staff, all our council members on a message on Facebook or social media is the right way to go about responding to a concern that somebody has. We have our website has Notify Me. Like, you can go sign up on our website and get the agendas for Budget Advisory, Parks and Rec, City Council, Planning Commission. There's all these tools that we have that our residents may not be aware, and maybe you as committee members are that resource for them. Now they know someone that is working closely with the city, and that's why they feel comfortable reaching out to you on text, social media. And we're happy to help you and direct you on what ways you can respond to them.
Just one comment two, actually. When there is somebody here for public comment, we don't respond. Okay, they don't get an answer, unfortunately, that day. That's just part of how public comments are. We listen to their comments, they're recorded, and they're addressed off of the meeting. The other thing is like Gabby said, I will get a lot of questions about, well, who do I contact? Actually had one the other day and they wanted to know, I forget what they wanted to know, but it was Parks and Rec. And I said, well, call the Parks and Rec department. Here's the number. Because I don't know and I don't want to give them the wrong information. So.
Thank you. Meeting procedures. Staff will present the item. The committee will discuss. We will receive public comment if it's an action item. We will have a motion and a second and a vote. So the way that we've decided that you all will be conducting your vote will be the chair will say, all those in favor say yes, all those opposed say no. If a vote is unclear on who voted how, the clerk will ask for a repeat of the vote or a roll call vote. Now, a roll call vote is by each of you being called on individually. But for the most part, we'll do all those in favor say yes, all those in favor say no, and that will be done by your chair. Any questions? What direction they're going to give on items. Like, for example, tonight, nominating a chair, nominating a vice chair. Yeah. A vote to abstain. It's a member's decision not to cast their vote in favor or opposed in a decision. But a member abstaining is considered as present for the purposes of quorum, but it does not count for the purposes of a yes or a no vote. Does that make sense? Okay. And council members are not non-voting members. Sorry, I had to say it. Again, you are only here to make recommendations to city council, and city council decides what to do with those recommendations. Best practices and key takeaways. Please read your agenda packets. Discuss only in public meetings. Ask staff questions. Let's make sure that we're transparent, no secret meetings, that we're having public participation, and when in doubt, always feel free to ask staff. We are here to support you all. Any violations of the Brown Act may cause the invalidation of any actions taken by you. Any questions? That is all I have, Tammy. Do you want to add anything?
No, I think you did a great job, and I appreciate you guys asking questions, because that's exactly perfect time to do it, is ask those questions. And as her slide said, if you have a question, whether it's something you should talk about, not talk about, discuss with somebody, feel free to give us a call, clarify it, I think she did a great job laying that all out, and then we will get back to you about that conflict of interest. It's a little different, you guys are an advisory committee, so there's probably less chance of the conflict, but still we want to make sure that we are following the rules there. So we'll go to our next agenda item, which is public comment. No action will be taken on these comments. At this time, members of the public may comment on any item not appearing on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Budget Advisory Committee. Individual comments will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, and time cannot be yielded to another person. Under state law, matters presented during the public comment period cannot be discussed or acted upon. At this time, we would ask for any public comment. Typically we go in our council chambers first. I don't see any in the council chambers. I do see a hand is raised on Zoom.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, please state your name for the record.
My name is Diego Hernandez. First of all, I want to start off by saying thank you for taking my comment. And I wanted to make it very clear that swearing is protected speech as long as it's not fighting words. Make that very clear. As long as it doesn't incite a fight or disrupt the meeting, swearing is allowed. And the second thing I wanted to say is that since January 23rd of 2019 until February 2025, our former mayor, Richard O'Brien, sat on the LAFCO council with William Berry Hill, which is the developer for the Riverwalk. They sat for 6 years and they usurped the city's finances in order to get a wastewater treatment project pushed forward. And I would urge you guys to take that into account, look at that very specifically, be very critical of what KSN is telling you guys, and also take a look at the budget that we have in front of us. We have a 15% reserve requirement that requires that we keep 15% in the general fund, and we're going to waste through that within the next 20 months. Within the next 20 months, we're going to fall below the 15% requirement. Now, Tammy knows this. If we approve a similar budget to what we have now, we're going to fall below the 15% requirement. We adopted a budget that included 1.5 million for the CalPERS funding of the city employees for their unfunded liabilities. The amount was 970,000 for the previous year, but we added 1.5 million. We are headed to bankruptcy right now. We're literally headed to bankruptcy. The Parks and Rec expenditures were $473,000 4 to 5 years ago. Now they're $1 million. Payroll for water and the sewer enterprise have increased 300% within the previous 4 years. We're headed toward bankruptcy. Now, I'll grant the general fund this. If we can get past the next 2 years and we can clear the tax sharing obligation, which is, I think there's 700,000 due the next year, we might have some relief, but we don't have it now. And on August the 4th, we're being asked to present a special planning commission for a project which we have no infrastructure. We don't have any feasibility. On September the 2025, Eric Hegelson came up and presented that we would be able to fund it with 6% for 5 additional years. And that hasn't been fully addressed to the public. I ask you guys to be responsible, to review it, and reject any unnecessary spending. Thank you.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other speakers on there, so we'll go ahead and close our public comments. So next, we will go to our action and discussion items. 6.1 is our introduction and overview with the Budget Advisory Committee. So tonight, again, welcome members, and as we have already discussed, tonight is going to be a lot of orientation and discussion of policies, and what I'm going to go over is really what the Budget Advisory Committee was established for. So the committee was formed. The Budget Advisory Committee serves as an advisory capacity to the Riverbank City Council on matters related to the city's financial health, operating budget, and long-term fiscal sustainability. The committee consists of 5 Riverbank residents with experience or an interest in finance, accounting, business, or public administration. A city council member serves as a 6th non-voting member, and an alternate council member is appointed to serve in the council member's absence. The committee was reestablished to provide informed public review of fiscal information and make recommendations on financial policies and priorities. And I did give the committee a copy of these slides because there is so much information tonight. It's not typical that I would give a copy of the PowerPoint, but I thought that there was so much information in these slides, it might be good for you guys, and you can make little notes on them if you want. I just thought they would be good for you guys to have. So if anybody wants them electronically, you can ask me for those too. So the committee's duties and scope: review the city's annual audit and financial statements, review quarterly financials. I will say we are not currently doing quarterly financials. It is a goal. And in this year's budget is, we got an enhancement to our current software that we do our budget in for some financial reporting to assist with that quarterly reports. Review and discuss the operating budget, capital improvement program, or CIP as we commonly refer to it, and special revenue funds. Evaluate proposals for new or increased revenue sources. Evaluate the financial impact of programs, projects, and contracts. Make recommendations to the city council regarding financial policies and priorities. And please feel free to stop me at any point if you would like some clarification. The meeting structures and expectations: the committee will meet at least 4 times per year in the evening, with additional meetings as needed. As a standing committee, meetings are subject to Brown Act and open to the public. Tonight's meeting will include the discussion of an annual meeting schedule and scheduling and the election of a chair and vice chair. Sure.
One of the things that I'm excited about with having a budget committee is when I was working in the business world, they used to say, throw everything at the wall. And what we want to hear now is everything at the wall. If you think it's the silliest thing in the world, throw it at the wall, suggest it. That's why you're here. We need you to help us think outside the box, okay? Don't be afraid to look silly or think it's stupid, because it's not. It could very well be what saves one of the budgets, okay?
Okay, so that's really the last of that item, 6.1. Is there any comments from the members or questions? I need to do public, right? And then we'll go to the public for any public comment related to this item.
Mr. Hernandez, can you please unmute?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you so much for having my comment. The one thing that I would urge you guys on seriously considering is the fact that the city of Riverbank is not headed toward a good direction. The city of Riverbank had 10 to $11 million in the general fund at one point. They're gonna have $5 million at
Diego, is
the
this related to item 6.1?
absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. They're gonna have $5 million left at the conclusion of this budgetary year. If the city council adopts a similar budget, we will fall below the 15% reserve requirement. That's a concern. Obviously, that's a concern. If the city has offloaded 300% increases of payroll, salary, benefits to the water, sewer, and gas tax, Parks and Recreation has increased its expenditures from 473,000 up to 1 million. We have a concern. We have a concern that the city is spending way more than that it's taking in. They haven't accounted for this. Just 2 meetings ago, the city council was considering purchasing a property on the corner of Atkinson, for a new Riverbank City Council annex. It was $840,000 to purchase. It was a multi-million-dollar project, probably costing $700 per square foot, if not more. We have to be critical of what the city council is doing. We have to be critical of what the finance director is doing. And we have to try to point the city finance director, the budget, and we have to ask these questions. I've had conversations with the city council, city mayor, and I don't think a lot of these questions are being asked. And I think we need to be serious about these questions. We need to be honest about where we're headed. These questions, these reviews are going to have to happen within about a year and a half. In a year and a half, in a year's time, we're going to have to make these difficult analyses. And we should have made them already, but we weren't able to make them because it was a hard pill to swallow. And I'm asking you guys on the Budget Advisory Committee to make them now. Start looking toward them. And the only other thing that I would say is there's an organization known as RYBSA. It's the Riverbank Softball Baseball Association. They haven't presented it to you guys, but they only need about $10,000 to $12,000 in city expenditures. It's going to be a loss, but they offer a net public benefit, which is greater than anything that the city can offer for about 10 to 12,000, considering waiving
Thank you,
it.
Diego.
Okay.
Okay, I see no other hand raised for public comment on this item, so we will go to our next item. So our next item is 6.2, discussion regarding election of a chair and vice chair. So the committee will need to designate a chair and vice chair to support the orderly conduct of the meetings and the committee business. The role of the chair presides over the committee meetings, helps maintain orderly conduct of business, works with staff on meeting flow and agenda management as needed. And then your role for the vice chair is they perform the chair's duties when the chair is absent. So given that this is our first meeting, members may wish to consider whether additional time would be beneficial before appointing a committee chair. Delaying the selection until the next meeting would allow members maybe the opportunity to become a little bit more familiar with who they may want to nominate, or if somebody wanted to nominate themselves. Or the committee may determine tonight that it's prepared to move forward with an appointment of a chair and vice chair. So I'm leaving this open to the committee where you would like to go with this, if we want to delay this to the next meeting, or if there's interest in anybody nominating themselves or or somebody else tonight, or if you guys would like to defer this to the next meeting. Go ahead, Michael.
I would like to appoint the committee tonight.
Okay.
I too think it'll get us moving in the right direction.
Okay, so in order to pick a chair and a vice chair, somebody would nominate somebody to be a chair, and then we would go with the second and then take a vote, and then we would approach the vice chair.
Can I ask really quickly, so did we all have 2-year terms?
We do not all have 2-year terms.
Okay.
There are 2 1-year terms. Mark and Michael happen to be our 1-year terms.
Okay. Now, does that play a role in the chair or?
Every year? It rotates every year annually, so it doesn't, it wouldn't affect that.
Okay, sounds good.
I had 2 questions, comments. One is there like a name protocol? Because I know when you listen on Zoom or to some of these things, it can be confusing if you're changing, like we have doctor, or do we have Janet, or so is there any sort of understanding? Is it like Becky, Gabby, Tammy, or is it, do we change? Because it can be not here, but I know sometimes you listen to these things, it can be like, who's on first occasionally.
Yeah, go ahead.
So typically we go by last names, right? So committee member, Heivinger, Linus, Dillard, Christie, Nunez Pineda. Or if you wish to go by just Pineda or just Pineda, that's fine. We would refer to Councilmember Fossey as Councilmember Fossey. We would refer to Assistant City Manager Al Cantor, but you can always feel comfortable saying Gabby, Tammy, if we're up here. Now, when we call like for your vote or procedural stuff, we would say your committee member last names, and then we would call Becky the clerk of your committee. We would try to keep it as professional as we could up here in the dais. Now, if we choose a chair and a vice chair, then we would call each of you member, and then the chair Dillard, or vice chair Christie, or, that's the way we would conduct it. We would refer to you by your chair, vice chair, and then everybody else is member. Does that answer your question?
Oh, and my second question, comment was, if we're going to move forward with the chair, I don't want to nominate myself. I don't know. Member Linus, did I get it right? Linus. But my only thinking would be, I've talked to her twice, not extensively, but I think for the community, it's good sometimes to give a person who's younger, a young mother might be, growing our own talent into the future, preparing people to do more things. I think this is a supportive environment for somebody to grow and experience things, whereas some organizations can be more dynamically, not that this couldn't become challenging, but I mean, there is a lot of city staff support and things like that. So if we're going to roll on trying to elect chair, do we call them chairperson? Is that what we're chair? Yeah, the chair. I would like to go ahead and nominate Member Linus.
So when any of you nominate yourselves or another, they have to accept the nomination.
Well, do we need more discussion before? I mean, I
Yes,
don't know if we've
so-
decided if.
No,
we're
no,
even-
so if you do nominate, member Linus, she can think about it, whether she,
That was one of the reasons I was wondering if we were going to roll forward because,
Yes.
you've got your 10 minutes to consider whether this is a good decision.
yeah, so we can let her ponder on it and think about it, and then we will ask her, does she accept the nomination? Then we can have further discussion if anybody else wants to nominate someone else or themselves, or has any questions or concerns on what entails being the chair and the vice chair.
No, you're fine. Did anybody else have questions or anybody want to speak up, like have interest? I mean, because definitely nobody wants to be put into a position that they don't want to be in. But we do have a nomination too, so I don't,
And
Go ahead.
I'm fine. I can nominate myself for vice chair if we want to support her. I'm perfectly fine with that too. Either or.
okay. Did anybody else have interest? Member Linez, are you willing to accept the nomination for chair?
I will accept, I will also accept for vice too, if you have interest in being it.
We're already getting along.
So is there a preference from either one of you?
I have no preference.
Okay, so we'll go with the initial nomination was for chair for member Lioness. So I will ask all those in favor, say yes.
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 There we go.
Yes.
Any no's? Or any opposed, I should say, pardon me. So then that means we have our chair, Ms. Linus, and then do we have the nomination for the vice chair for member Dillard? Do you accept that nomination? Dillard?
So nobody else has to do it. I can do it for myself.
Well,
But if
just
so-
you, yeah, you said you would nominate yourself. So if I'm taking it that you're going to accept the nomination as vice chair. Okay. So that's that's been accepted. So somebody to second that nomination.
I second it.
Okay. And then all those in favor of the nomination, say yes, please.
Yes.
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 Any opposed? Okay, so we have our chair and our vice chair. Our chair will be member Linez. We will now refer to her as Chair Linez. And am I saying that correct? Okay. And then our vice chair will be member Dillard. Well, then that's good. We accomplished something tonight, you guys. Great start. Okay, so we are moving on to item 6.3, government finance orientation. So this one goes through a lot of information, and this is where I really wanted you guys to be able to have these PowerPoints. So the purpose of it today is really to establish a shared understanding of municipal finance, review how government finance differs from private business finance, introduce some key concepts regarding fund accounting, modified accrual basis of accounts, budget controls, fiscal and financial policies, financial reporting, and transparency. So the Budget Advisory Committee will provide advisory input to the city on city budget matters. Committee members will review complex financial issues, including revenues and expenditures, reserves, staffing requests, capital needs, structural deficits, and long-term financial sustainability. So some comparison to a city budgeting versus a personal or a business finance. In a city, our purpose is to provide public services and manage public resources. In your personal or your business finance, it's to generate a profit and return on investment. So our budgets are looked at a little different than a business budget is looked at. Our budget role here on the advisory committee will be to guide legal policy and operational spending authority in the personal or business. It's an internal financial plan and management tool. So we have to follow legally where our monies can be spent. Sometimes they don't necessarily get to go where we want them to. And in a business, it's one pocket that they can pull from most of the time to put where they want. Our revenue sources under the city budgeting is taxes, fees, charges, grants, assessments, or utility rates. And in a business or a personal, sales, contracts, investments, and private capital. And then spending restrictions, many of our funds have legally or administratively been restricted based on where they can be used. And funds are generally in our business world a little bit more flexible. So local government budgeting is not the same as the household. And then accountability for our city budgeting is public meetings, audits, public records, elected oversight. In your business world, it's your owners, shareholders, or lender boards. Typically a lot less people to account or report to. Financial goal, fiscal sustainability, and service delivery in your city. And then in your business, you're looking at profitability and growth. Account structures within the city, fund accounting by purpose or restriction, entity in the business, entity-wide profitability and financial position. So municipal finance is designed around public service, legal compliance, transparency, and long-term stewardship. Fund accounting by purpose means that we do segregate out different monies that we receive because they are only allowed to be used in certain areas. Our general fund is our most discretionary fund that can be spent where council decides or designates it to go. So I did provide you guys a listing of all of our funds, and then I provided you a listing of our departments. And I listed what fund they come from. So I'll give you an example of why we do some fund accounting. Measure L is the gas tax. Measure L is a streets and roads incentive that is in the county only. And that money is to be spent on transportation or streets maintenance. So that is in its own fund, tracked under that one fund. The other is gas tax. Gas tax comes in, and there are certain parts of the gas tax that can be used for maintenance. And then there's SB1 monies from gas tax that is for, and when I say maintenance, I mean like day-to-day maintenance, those kinds of things. The other one is more for capital improvement and more road projects on that SB1. Sometimes there is the ability to do equipment in there too, if it's related to the streets and roads as well. So there's a lot of funds in the city. There's several different categories, and I know it's a lot. But the primary funds that most people would focus on would be your general fund, and then your enterprise, your sewer and water funds. Those are the primary areas and that we usually concentrate on. The city's strategic plan. So the council did adopt a strategic plan in 2025 for 5 years. And that implementation gave the city some priorities, but those also depend on adequate funding, sustainable revenues, strategic deployment of city resources, long-term fiscal planning, grant funding and new revenue opportunities, staff capacity, infrastructure, investment. related to strategic plans. Strategies include establishing the Budget Advisory Committee, reestablishing it with citizen involvement, maintaining the general fund reserve policy, and reviewing city fee schedules, evaluating contracts for cost effectiveness, and pursuing grant opportunities. So one of the topics that I said we would cover would be the modified accrual basis of accounting. So the city prepares its budget and maintains accounting records using this modified accrual basis, and that is consistent with governmental accounting standards. Under this accrual accounting, revenues are generally recognized when they are measurable and available. In other words, we can't record revenue that we don't know that we're going to get, right? We have to ensure when we are recording revenues that they are available. Expenditures are recognized when the related liability is incurred. So once the expense has been incurred, it is incurred in that fiscal year, and that's subject to governmental fund accounting requirements.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Under measurable and available, I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. Are you saying that there's never a time where the city is projecting?
In the budget, we project, but in our general ledger and our actuals, it has to be that we know we're gonna get it. Yeah. Yeah, and then, of course, but budgeting is potentially primarily a projection, right?
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm wrapping my mind on measurable and available. That's kind of a different
Yeah.
way of the term in my head, the way I'm trying to
Sure.
make sense of it. Okay.
So core concept in government financing, funds are organize the city's accounts. Each fund is treated as a separate accounting entity and has its own assets, liabilities, equity, revenues, and expenditures. The city's operating budget includes spending from multiple funds. Funding depends upon the type of service or legal restrictions and accounting requirements. So common fund types include our general fund, supports many traditional city services. Our special revenue funds account for revenues restricted for specific purposes. And then grant funds used for eligible activities under the grant requirements. Capital funds are used for capital projects and infrastructure needs. And then debt service funds would be used for debt-related payments. Proprietary funds include our enterprise operations, such as water and sewer funds.
I have another question. Does the city have a assigned grant writer, or who?
We do not have assigned a grant writer. Departments typically will have somebody in their department that would
Take the lead?
take the lead on those. And sometimes we have opportunities that come through, like with Stan Cog, the Council of Governments in Stanislaus County. Sometimes they have opportunities that we can get grants through them, and they reach out to our planning department and let us know those things too. Or streets and roads if there's that available funds. So revenue sources, taxes, which is our core municipal services and general operations, sales tax and property tax pretty much make up over 70% of our general fund. Charges for services and fees, programs or services tied to a user activity. Governmental revenue is shared state, federal resources and grants. Franchise, permits, fines, and others would be targeted local revenue streams. Grants, funding received from federal, state, and local agencies to support specific programs, projects, and capital improvements. And then our investment earnings, interest income earned on the city's cash and investment portfolio in accordance with the city's investment policy. development-related development activity, including planning, building, engineering, and development impact fees that support growth and related infrastructure and services. So restricted versus unrestricted revenues. General fund revenues are generally flexible. That's the sales tax, property tax, and some service charges. The gas tax is transportation funds. Those are restricted to streets, roads, or eligible transportation uses. Grant funds would be restricted to whatever the grant was designated for. Utility revenues are restricted, water and sewer operations and capital needs. So we can't collect in the water and put it into the general fund. We can't collect in the sewer and give it to the water. The funds that are collected for those utilities must stay in those utilities. Development impact fees, these are restricted and restricted to growth-related infrastructure. So when you have development that comes in, they have to pay their fair share for the system, right? So they have to put in their infrastructure, or they have to pay the fees if the infrastructure is already in there. It's worked out different ways, but basically, if the system is established, and then they're gonna give their portion for that system. Enterprise funds, the water and sewer funds, again, restricted. Any revenues received for those need to stay in those funds. Yes.
Question, thank you. Let's just say we, as a committee, we agree that we find $500,000 in the general fund that we feel like we all should be spent somewhere else. Can we move that to the water utilities? Suggest that to help give the residents a break in the bills? I mean, is that something, if it or just you only can do water and sewer, what comes in?
No, so general fund is discretionary. So you could make that recommendation or suggestion to the city council if you choose. So they can receive funds from general fund or another, will depend upon the fund, but they could receive funds from the general fund. But we can't charge rates and then take that money and put it someplace else. Those rates are put in place to maintain those systems, and they need to stay in those systems. So in the funds. Does that make sense?
My thinking is what could we do to help the residents with the
Sure.
cost, the expensive utilities? I mean, if all of a sudden, there's, we have $500,000 here in the general fund, coming in, we really don't need it for that specific item. Can we transfer it to water, sewer, to help get the rates down, or at least get a relief from
Sure.
increases?
I mean, that would be an option that the council could consider.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to remind you that rates for sewer, water, and such are established by city council and put in place based on the revenue. So that would be something that would have to go to council, and those rates would have to be evaluated. Like right now, we're getting ready to do water rates. So while there may be an opportunity to do that, the rates are established based on what's coming in, and they are set for 5 years. So I just want to make sure that, like, if you want to give 500,000 to sewer, you don't think that's going to happen right away, because it does have to go through the rate study and everything. Right?
No, it doesn't necessarily. I think what he's saying is, can the general fund supplement sewer funds? In essence, that could potentially, when you evaluate rates, so that's a hard one. It's a hard scenario. So for one thing, the council member Fossey is correct. We set the rates based on what we estimate expenditures are going to be to maintain our system. So that's why they stay in there. If the council was to choose to put some general fund monies into one of those funds, water is a great example right now, because our water rates have not been increased since 2019, and the water fund is not in a good financial position. So what would happen in that case is, when it goes to the rate study, if the council found, or we found 500,000 to put into the water fund, it would decrease that makeup that they have to put into those rates. But giving a fund, the sewer fund or the water fund, 500,000, it would be maybe for a project, but you have to do I guess the council could choose to do a temporary decrease of those rates, but typically you're following a rate schedule that has been put in place. Go ahead. Did you have another question? Okay.
Yeah, I think, and was your question geared around that, or was it geared around us giving the rates back, or was it geared around the transfer of funds?
My biggest question and concern is what can we do to help the residents? You know, it's, my phone has been blowing up with, you know, the complaints. I do come to meetings often. I speak out in public to the council, but I just want to know what we can do to help everybody in Riverbank, you know, all over with the rates. And if there's any way to put like a temporary freeze on it, you know, or stop the bleeding per se. And I understand, you know, even if we found that kind of money, we all agreed on it. I understand it is a process. Like Councilman Reverend Fossey said, there's a process but I'm just looking for ways to help the residents.
Understood. So where are city funds spent? Our personnel, salaries, benefits, pensions, staffing requests, operations, supplies, contracts, maintenance, utilities, insurance, risk management, and routine services. In capital for buildings, streets, equipment, and infrastructure. Debt or long-term obligations, debt service, and other long-range commitments. Transfers out, transfers between funds when appropriate. Matching fund sources to use. So ongoing revenues, a resource type of ongoing revenues, ongoing services, staffing, recurring. We would, with an ongoing revenue, you want that to support an expenditure for ongoing services, staffing, and reoccurring operations. We don't want to use our ongoing revenues for a one-time commitment without future capacity. One-time revenues would be where you would want to spend those on a capital project, reserves, or equipment. And you wouldn't want to use it on a permanent staffing or an ongoing program. So if you have one-time monies, you don't want to put it towards an ongoing expenditure, right? That's pretty much what this is saying here is like when the revenue source is being considered, make sure that we're applying it to the appropriate type of expenditure. Reserves are kept there for emergencies, economic uncertainty, or planned policy uses, and not necessarily for the routine ongoing operating deficits. Restricted funds eligible for their restricted purpose, unrelated to general fund services. Once a budget is adopted, it does authorize spending. So the budget serves as a legal document, the policy document, operations plan, and financial control tool. So the budget controls adopted expenditures become appropriations to the city departments when it's adopted. Expenditures may not legally exceed appropriations at the department level and governmental fund types. And budget controls help ensure departments adhere to the adopted budget. So that budget is very important. It is our financial tool, what our department heads and what our staff follow of where their expenditures can be. The framework for responsibility, the city's fiscal and financial policies do guide the budget control, the accounting procedure, the modified accrual, the debt management, financial reporting, investment practices, operating budget policies, purchase policies, and our capital improvement and asset policies. The budget is the adopted financial plan for the fiscal year. It shows estimated revenue, authorized expenditures, department and fund budgets, staffing levels, capital project funding, transfers between funds, and then use of fund balance. And I'm gonna take a minute and I'm gonna show you guys, Norma, if we can switch over to the other screen, pause my presentation. I did want to make sure that you guys know, and whoever is watching, where you can find our budget at. Oh, sorry. We're both controlling. So I'm going to go back to the home. So this is our city website. And if you click on City Hall, you can go down to finance. And then at the bottom or towards the bottom here is our annual operating budgets. And so you would just click right here and it takes you to our interactive budget. So I just want to point out a few key things here in the budget. There is an introduction. There is this Citizen's Guide to the Annual Budget. It goes over a brief explanation of the budget. It gives you some guidelines of maybe where you might want to look. The budget at a glance is a summary of the city's finance plan and key budget highlights. The fund summary section, which you see over here, it gives an overview of the funds. And then funding sources gives you information about the revenues. And then the department summary gives you information about expenditures. So this here is part of the budget at a glance. It gives a summary of where the city's budget is, primarily focused on general fund, sewer, and water. I just want to make sure that you guys know, some of these things where to go. It also includes information about your city council, our mission and vision statement, what the budget process is. It gives an outline of what we go through when we do the budget, timing wise. And our financial policies are in here. And then there is a organization structure in here. We are working on this because this is a terrible display. I've actually, we almost had one done today and I didn't quite get to reviewing it all. So I apologize, but we are working on this so that it would be a better vision there. And then just some general city information is in there. When you go to fund summary, so over here you click and it drops down and then you can see your different funds, right? But when on the main screen, we do give you, still loading. Oh, I have to go down here. So it does give you all the funds at the city, what the beginning balance is, what the revenues are, what the expenditures are, where it's going to be at the end of the year. So this is just, again, it's a summary. But if I want to look at general fund only, I can go to general fund and then it will show me a history of general fund. It will show me what the current budget is, what we're budgeting. This is where we were at in actuals at the time of the budget. So this just gives you a little bit, again, it's a summary. It's not the detail. If you want to see some revenues, we could go to general fund and here, whoops. So general fund goes over some of our primary revenues, and then down here, it lists out all of our revenues, where our taxes are, where our license and permits, grants, charges for services. This is all of your general fund revenues right here.
When reviewing this, I was wondering, what was the date of your actuals?
I believe it was May 31st. So we had 1 month left.
And then how soon do you guys have the actuals for year end?
So our year end was at June 30th. We are still collecting expenditures and getting that refined. typically, probably mid-August is when we are more finalized with our, end of the year. And I can update the actuals at any point in this budget document. So when I update the actuals in the software, it will reflect on here.
I do want to make a comment that I commend the city, whoever maintains this website. It was by far one of the most easiest, transparent websites, up to date than many other government sites, if you've ever compared. So
Oh, well,
really
thank
good
you.
job on that.
I had just an informational.
Of
You
course.
know that the topping or the headings at the tops of these, it has like FY, I assume fiscal year.
Correct.
Sometimes it says 25, 26, and sometimes it just says 26. Is there a difference?
So, the fiscal year 25 would be fiscal year 2024 to 2025. So the last year of the fiscal year. So our fiscal years, and I apologize because I did not even cover that, but our fiscal years go July 1st through June 30th. So for that actual of 25, it would be July 1st of 2024 to June 30th of 2025.
So could all of those headings be expanded then that way? Like the first one, is that 24, 25 actual?
Yes.
So you just, sometimes they're shortened. And
Yeah,
some-
I'll have to look in the program and see if I can change those. But I appreciate that feedback because that is good feedback to know when somebody is looking at it to help you understand it, right?
I
Yeah.
couldn't, I didn't know if it was, because it's not consistent throughout. the
Understood.
document. If you see 25, that means it's always 24, 25. and-
Correct. Mhm.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so then the next area that you can look at would be, oops, let me close that down here to department summaries. And again, we'll go to, so this has all your departments and gives the expenditures. And then there is a budget detail as well. And then it will also, let me choose. Parks and Rec Department has multiple. Let's go to recreation. Oh, that's not there. I'm sorry, I was looking for where, oh, I know where I put it. In your fund summary, I did not show that. Under general fund, at the bottom, it shows, these are your general fund transfer ins. And, then down here are your transfer outs, your subsidies, and, just the general fund transfer outs. So, it spells out what fund it's going to, and the transfer ins tell you where they're coming from. And I have some more slides that will get into more deep depth there. But this department is where you can see your expenditures, and it has your gas tax in here. It also has your enterprise funds for your sewer and for your water. So for your sewer collection is your pipes in your city that households contribute to or commercial contribute to. Your sewer treatment is our wastewater treatment plant, where all of that whatever comes from the city goes out there and gets treated for disposal. Just a little FYI. So you understand the difference between the two. But again, it must not be loading because there should be the, yeah. I'm making it work. I'm trying to make it work. There should be, on each of these, there should be a detailed budget in there as well. There's there's treatment popped up right there. So you can see the same thing where you can see the details. So again, I just wanted to give a brief tour of this. I know it's a lot of information. We have a lot of funds that we track, but we really, I mean, it's hard when you're tracking so many funds and trying to keep it transparent too. So those are my tidbits of where you could go to find out information. So Norma, if we can go back to my slideshow now. Slideshow presentation. All right, make sure I have the right thing. So our financial reports, when you guys look at financial reports, you'll be looking like at our quarterlies or our annual audit. You will see adopted versus amended budget, actual revenues received, actual expenses incurred, what the remaining budget is, and then a percent of budget used, year-to-date activity, or prior year or projected trends when they're available. So some common terms for you: the budget, approved spending or revenue estimate. Our actuals are actually revenues received or expenditures incurred. An encumbrance is when funds have been committed, but they have not yet been spent. So we've committed and issued a purchase order to purchase a piece of equipment. Those funds are encumbered. Available budget would be the budget remaining after actuals and encumbrances. And then our year-to-date, if there's a year-to-date column, it would be the activity from the beginning of the fiscal year through the report date. And amended budget would be your original budget plus approved changes. So throughout a fiscal year, there are things that come up. So staff will come to council and say they need an additional appropriation, whether it's an emergency or if it's for an unanticipated project or service that we need, that they would come back to council and get that additional appropriation. Then those get added into the budget. We also do a mid-year budget review where we review where our revenues are coming in, where our expenditures are, and if there are any adjustments. That too goes to the council, and then those changes would get into the amended budget. The city's financial reporting practices support transparency and accountability. We do monthly financial reports showing revenue and expenditure activities, and these are provided to our department heads so that they can track their budgets and make sure that they're staying on track. Our mid-year budget review provides that snapshot on how the budget is playing out and if there's any adjustments. Our annual financial reports prepared at the end of each fiscal year. And then our annual independent audit of the city's financial statements. And the audit does come back to the council for acceptance. And it is presented and we point out anything. I already showed you in the budget that at the front there is the little tidbit summary, snapshot of the budget. In the annual audit, at the beginning of the audit, there is a section called Management Discussion and Analysis. That is prepared by staff. That is not prepared by the auditor. And basically, it calls out some of the major things that have happened. It goes over governmental funds. It goes over the proprietary or enterprise funds, and we'll call out where things have happened, why there was a change here, why there was a change there. They have implemented some changes in the what and how we present the MD&A. So there are, that's the management discussion and analysis. That's the MDA. There will be changes if you were to look at the most recent audit, which was the fiscal year 24-25, and then you compare it to 25-26, you're going to see some differences because they have passed down some changes there. Our city policy further supports financial management by emphasizing in diverse and stable revenue sources, conservative and objective revenue estimates, user charges and fees that recover service costs where appropriate, use of non-recurring revenues only for the non-recurring expenditures, capital planning and asset management, investment practices consistent with legal and policy requirements, long-term debt requirements, require city council approval. Long-term debt should not be used for current operations, and long-term borrowing generally is for capital improvements. So your key concepts to remember: government finance is focused on public service, not profit. The city budget is a legal policy and operational document. Modified accrual accounting determines when revenues and expenditures are recognized. Fund accounting separates resources by purpose and restriction. Not all funds can be used for all purposes, and fiscal policies guide responsible decision-making. Long-term sustainability requires balancing current needs with future obligations. So that is my presentation for the government finance orientation. Do you guys have any questions, comments that you would like to share with me on this or ask?
I just have, do you guys ever do like a 3 or 5 year forecast of?
We have not. Well, so I've been here almost 5 years. We have not did that. I'm not sure. I don't recall hearing that it was done in the past, but we have not did that. No. Any other comments? I will open it up for the public if nobody else has any comments.
Hi. I did have a comment. When reviewing the budget, I would urge a little bit of caution. In 2023, when I was reviewing the budget, there was a charge for 1.7 million. This was an ARPA-funded solar project. The project wasn't able to be completed until 2025. So it does appear as an outbound transfer of about 1.65 million. So it's an outbound transfer leaving, but it appeared in parentheses as a credit back to the account. So it also appears as 1.65 in revenue coming back to the account, but it was self-balanced into a fixed assets account. Tammy can tell you a little bit more about that. So you have to be a little bit careful, because more than anything, the budget summary is self-balancing. It doesn't fully tell the story of the budget. More than anything, it's a self-balancing account presentation. The other thing I would really ask you guys to focus on is the amount of expenditures that have increased from 2022, 2023 until now. If you take a look at 2022, 2023 until present, you're going to find that payroll, salary, benefits has increased by 300% in the sewer enterprise, the water enterprise, and about 200% in the water enterprise. Now, this happened because in 2024, Tammy actually made it so that the general fund staffing, this is clerical staffing in the general fund, was going to be shifted over to the enterprise funds. These are interdepartmental clerks that are doing work for enterprise funds. They're going to be shifted over to these enterprise funds. Hope that makes sense. And any transfers out, these appear as a 999.00 designation. These are funds that are being transferred to the general fund from the enterprise. These are supposed to stop, but we don't see that happen. What we see is that 220,000 transferred out from the sewer and $220,000 shifted out from the water. And this was just the most recent budget. So that was supposed to stop. It wasn't supposed to continue, but it continues to be happening as we speak. And in my opinion, it seems like we're rating the utilities to cover general fund deficits. And that's one of the things that I would ask you guys as the Budget Advisory Committee to prevent from happening moving forward. In 2022 to 2023, our total expenditure for salaries and benefits was a total of 818,000. We're at 1.8 to 1.9 million in 2026 to 2027. We've increased over double. And and it doesn't show any signs of slowing down. So I would ask you guys to really hamper down on that, see when it's gonna stop, and we haven't increased. So if you look at the volume of effluents, it hasn't
Thank you,
increased.
Diego.
Thank you.
I will make a clarification. The way prior to, fiscal year 23-24, the way that it was handled, we have several staff members that cover different departments. We have staff members that work in sewer and they work in streets. Our finance personnel, primarily handle utility billing. So portions of their salaries would, be allocated to water and sewer. Prior to 23-24, what was being done was at the end of the fiscal year, there were transfers that were made from, the enterprise funds into whatever, to general fund or into the, gas tax, whichever it happened to be for streets. So I changed that because our accounting system is able to take an employee and allocate their wages, 25% to water, 25% to sewer, 50% to general fund, whatever that split may be. So instead of having to do a manual process, it goes through our payroll system and gets allocated all out, and we don't have to go through an extra procedure at the end of the fiscal year. So transfer outs in the enterprise funds decreased quite a bit, but there are still some transfers that get taken, or that are done. Sometimes it's between the actual sewer funds themselves. So there are multiple funds in water and sewer. There's the operating, there's a capital, and there can be a debt service fund. So when we collect revenues, they all go to the operating, and then we move that revenue into a capital fund because part of the rates are covering capital or they're covering debt service. So some of the transfers are within the enterprise funds themselves. The other transfer that does happen into general fund is we have our own city mechanic shop, fleet shop. So we allocate those out to both general fund departments and to enterprise fund departments for the maintenance of all the equipment and vehicles, including generators. Our fleet coordinator takes care of that as well. So just a little background of why that change was made. In my mind, I feel allowing the system to make that movement is a lot easier and probably cleaner, from less errors that way, right? So, and then there is one other area where transfers occur into the general fund, and that is your city manager, your assistant city manager, your city clerk, your assistant finance director. Those all go into general fund, but the services that are provided by all of that staff, there is a portion that is responsible for those enterprise funds. So those are still done on a transfer basis. So that's my explanation of why that change was made.
And do you guys publish the percentages that you're allocating back? I know it's, similar to overhead, right? You're gonna allocate them back to your departments.
We
but-
don't publish that, no, but good question.
I have a few, just again, as a advisor, I feel like our role is really to, again, at least for me, I'm here to want to be a thought partner and a strategic thought partner, exploring other ideas, as you were mentioning, right? So a few things that just come to mind are, one, yes, thank you for going into detail, but I wonder about, would it ever be helpful, right? We have internal controls that are set, but the public may not be aware that that's, one way to ensure that we are being compliance driven rather than kind of pigeonholing individual line items to justify, so on and so forth, right? They're all very valid and important questions. But I wonder about has there ever been a time where we are taking time to, as a committee, as we're doing now, right? How do we better explain this to the public to know that there are systems in place to ensure, to ensure compliance? The other part is when you set up the internal controls, in addition to that, we have annual audits. So same thing, our auditors, do we go through a third party for auditing? Is that document published? Have we done a good job at explaining the findings to the public or giving them an opportunity? Lastly, one other thought I have, though, is there similar to the question that was just mentioned, can we understand or can it be clarified what level of discretion is allowed within the current structure for staff to be able to handle some of the transfers that need to be taken place, either to balance the budget, so on and so forth, just for some of the back and forth?
So our annual audit is done by a third party. And it does come to the council. And typically, the staff report gives an outline of anything that was found, where we ended up, what we could be. In fact, not in the 24-25 audit, but in the 2 prior years, we did designate some additional monies to be set aside for the Trust 115, which goes towards the CalPERS. And we will touch on that on the next item too. And that was done at the annual audit because there was a surplus. So, and then internal controls, I don't think that we've really besides our annual audit tells us we have sufficient internal controls, other communications, I don't think that we've really probably touched on that very much. And your last question was, or last comment, I think I'm not answering.
I know that was a lot. Again, just so internal controls, making sure those are set. Again, all with the sake of wanting everyone to learn, be aware, and be able to advise. I think there are certain systems in place that maybe not everyone would be aware of, right? But then there's also probably what seems right now for me a little bit gray that would help me is what level of discretion does staff have to be able to balance the budget or do some of the transfers? For example, like a 999. Usually for me, my mind goes to at a federal level, that usually does mean we don't have all the information right now. We're making some adjustments, or you know what I mean? So if someone else who is just looking at it from the outside in, I could see where then they're like, well, where's this money's just 999, it's just getting transferred from here and there. But you all probably know that based on controls and audits, you were just balancing it out because staff positions are allocated in multiple areas.
Right.
Does that make sense? I'm like,
It does.
Bridge the gap.
And so in regards to discretion, so we do put our transfers into the budget. And those are done by a journal entry that will have backup explaining it. And there are 2 that sign off on the journal entries. So there is dual control there. Typically preparing the budget, the transfers are set on whether it's a staff allocation, whether it's the salary allocation of the overhead management, or the fleet. So it's all based around there. It's not based around, I need to put this here to balance, but there is a calculation behind it, right? So it's not really discretionary there.
Just a comment, when the first year that I was on budget council, the transfers came up, and I didn't like it. I was just like you. They used to have it all in one place. It was not something that was very transparent. It was not easy to understand. And that year, that was one of the recommendations that we did. And what you're seeing happening since Tammy came on and before then is that change where, we need to see, for example, the clerk's time charged to the clerk, her time charged to wastewater, her time charged to water in the budget, not just this little transfer thing. So it's not as transparent. It's not anywhere near as transparent as it was like, what's it been, 9 years, 10 years. So there have been some changes which have been very helpful in you guys being able to understand what's going on. And once you get into the budget, it's going to be a whole lot clearer. You guys have gotten a lot of information right now, and it's probably like, but once you get into the individual, it'll all make sense.
I did see
We have-
areas in the budget where you can see there's a breakdown of the transfers in, transfers out. So, I mean, it's not line by line, but I don't think we want to see that anyways.
And the 999 is just our designated transfer accounts. So it's not necessarily because we didn't know. It is because there is knowledge behind it. Okay, yeah.
Thank you for that. And no, again, I feel like I know we're typically not addressing or responding to the, public immediately, but I think being able to talk it through out loud hopefully can help, everyone who is interested understand that the different layers and the both opportunities for anyone to learn, right? Maybe we
Right.
reflect on something and you guys take that back.
Appreciate it.
We have public comment, Tammy.
We already had public comment on this one.
Oh, is it already public comment? But one
Yeah,
thing I wanted to
that's
say
no.
is,
Well, we'll have to wait for
He
the
already
next
spoke
item.
on
Sorry,
public comment
Diego.
on this one.
We'll have to wait for the next item. We already spoke on this item. Apologies. Yeah. we can go.
Okay, so we will go now to our next item, 6.4. So with this year's budget, when it was adopted, anticipation from the council regarding having this budget advisory committee, they did refer some budget priorities. Tonight, I'm presenting these to you. I am not I know that we've already gone probably longer than we all wanted to. But I want to present them to you. And another reason why I gave you the PowerPoint was it gives you the opportunity to look through these items so we can bring them forward at a future meeting and discuss this. So the city council referred this budget priority to the Budget Advisory Committee. The committee is asked to begin discussions of the city's potential use of its Section 115 trust for CalPERS related obligations. The discussion is advisory only. Final decisions regarding the use of trust funds remain with the city council. And then I just wanted to go over. So I wanted to give you a little bit of background about the trust. So the trust can provide the city with an additional tool for managing pension costs over time. It can help the city plan for future CalPERS contribution requirements. And I will pause for a minute. CalPERS is the retirement system that most municipalities invest into for their employees. I think there's some school districts there. There's some different ones out there. CalSTRS is another one that is a pension related funding. So that's what the CalPERS refers to. But the Trust 115 is money that was set aside specifically to help with CalPERS unfunded liabilities. So unfunded liabilities represent the difference between the pension benefits that have been promised to current or former employees and the assets currently available in the city's CalPERS pension plan to pay for those benefits. So if the projected cost of future pension benefits is greater than the value of assets set aside to pay those, the difference becomes an unfunded accrued liability. So each year, CalPERS will assess where their investments have fallen, where maybe it also addresses employees, whether they're retired, if maybe an employee, they project out all what those costs are going to be. So really a lot of things weigh on how their investments go too. But once they do that, they true it up, and then our unfunded liability each year can change. And so we set aside money to help with paying that unfunded liability each year. And it can be used as like what they call a smoothing method. I'm sorry, here it goes along the lines that, it's set aside resources for future pension, help manage unfunded pension liabilities, provide flexibility in addressing CalPERS related costs, potential smooth future employer contribution rates impacts. Think of the trust as a restricted savings and investment tool for future pension costs. It's not a general purpose reserve account. So CalPERS obligations are long-term costs providing city services. Annually required payments can change over time. Higher pension payments can place pressure on operating budgets. The trust provides a tool to manage unfunded pension obligations, smooth future rate impacts, and support long-term stability. So this is in our most recent actuarial from CalPERS. Here is what they projected for our unfunded balances. So in our current fiscal year, it was the 970,000. For the next fiscal year 27-28, it's projected at right around $1 million. And then you can see 28-29 goes to $1,087,000. 29-30, $1,092,000, and then 30-31, $1,091,000, and then 31-32 at 1.1. So right now our trust balance is at 1,565,000. So in May of 25, this was presented to the city council of an example of how this Trust 115 could assist the city. So this was using Riverbank's data. And basically what it did is the assumptions are that CalPERS discount rate is what they call 6.8%. Their investment returns were estimated to be 5% in the trust. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the trust. CalPERS investment returns were 9.5% in fiscal year 23-24, and then projected at 6.8 thereafter. Our initial trust, this was a scenario. Initial trust deposit of 1.5 million with no additional deposits, and the trust earning 5% annually. Would get us to about 2037, it looks like. And so what it does here is it says, okay, we are going to smooth the level of payments at 837,000. So in this year, for example, it was 970,000. So we would take the difference of 970 and the 837 and pull that money out of the trust to help cover those payments. It's to smooth out that payment so you don't have that fluctuation year to year. Yeah. Well, general fund, yes, it's all funds really. It's sewer and water too, because they have staffing. So what the council is asking is, at what point should they start doing this? What point should they start smoothing? And that's what they're asking the advisory committee to look at, is what can we do? Should we set, so here, what would be appropriate use? What conditions should exist before the city considers using the trust? Should the city prioritize long-term preservation or near-term budget smoothing? Should the future policy include specific financial triggers? What information would the committee want before making a recommendation? What concerns should staff consider when developing policy options? So these were some suggestions that I put out there for you guys to take into consideration, and to think about. Tonight, it was for the committee to receive this information, and I'm open to questions. You can begin identifying questions, policy concerns, and staff can return with a future recommendation or policy framework. Any future use of the trust would go to the city council for consideration, right?
I had a question. Just
Sure.
for my understanding, is the biggest assumption in this the rate of return for CalPERS?
Correct.
What if there's an unfortunate downturn in the market for 2 or 3 years? Wouldn't that entirely skew this?
It would.
Because you've now got your unfunded liability has greatly increased in your, the recovering takes twice as long as the down, it takes you 2 down years, may take you 5 good years, and then so
And that
that's
is,
the challenge. I realize you can only
Yeah.
project at the future,
Mhm.
you understand, but that's
Right.
a critical point, right? that
it
you should-
is. And I think that's where, where some of these trusts came in, fell into place because there were those downturns, right? 2009, 2010, when we took a big hit, in the stock market and everything, right? The numbers for PERS changed dramatically. And that's when legislation was put in place where they actually changed, the formulas that you could do for pensions. It's called PEPRA. You changed. We had to change what new employees were getting in their retirement. And it was to save some of that. So, your unfunded, newer employees on PEPRA, you don't have a huge risk on there. It's your long-term employees or past employees that are still collecting from CalPERS. And the city did used to have, or used to run their own police department. So we still have some public safety employees that are collecting CalPERS. But I mean, PEPRA was put in place so that hopefully, eventually this gets caught up and turned around where you don't have these fluctuations. But even so, you still have those fluctuations in the market that you have to be concerned about. So yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. If there's a change in that, where they're investing their money or in the market, then yeah, there will be a big change that we would have to look at too.
I thought I recalled you having some numbers, some interest numbers, in the presentation that you did for city council as far as the interest and, what it could do.
Oh, I did. I had ran some numbers regarding what we would, if we left the smoothing at the 837,
Right.
where like we would gain 140,000, into the budget versus doing nothing. So I had run some of those numbers with the budget, yes. I am not. I don't have them with me though.
I mean, I'm personally capable of running numbers to see what the trust would do,
Didn't.
hypothetically over the years with the interest rate. And then also the difference in the, what is needed from CalPERS, but is that something that we should like maybe publish or put out so that there's more information out there so people understand?
I'm sorry, publish.
Meaning like, if people can see things on paper, I think it's, it's okay, not necessarily paper, computer right now.
Right.
But if they can see the rate of return, what's happening with the interest rate as, we're gaining that interest and then it's offset by the transfers, I think that there's a greater understanding of, the flow of monies of what's happening.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I'm not sure. So, are you talking about, go ahead. Cause
I don't know if it'll ruin your thought. I feel, I mean, so a few thoughts that I had just for today's sake was it would, maybe we don't have we might need more time to be able to give suggestions or for council, but in the interim, it would seem really helpful, I think, to be able to have staff share more scenarios with us, and or go out and compare with other similar folk in our situation. So a few things that come to mind are, can we look at other cities and what they are doing? How are they, and just sharing that information to us? Can we consider running numbers of, yes, what would that look like in real actuals if you all came back with some sort of framework that includes a policy? What policy recommendations at what percentages long term, so that this isn't like a one-time thing, but truly thinking the longevity. Yes, we're probably going to head in the worst time ever and economically, so we can learn from the past. We can maybe hypothesize about the future, but the reality is that it would be really helpful for city to tell us some levels of recommendation of how you would want to adopt a policy, recommendations on how that would impact us over the next 3 to 5 years. And then what are other cities doing or have they done as a practice that has worked for them that they have been successful at, that we can compare ourselves to, just to maybe give council more information.
okay.
I think those are great. And I think basically why she's bringing this up to you today is not for you to like make decisions or, but to say, okay, what do you need? And this is great examples of what Tammy's looking for, to bring to you at the next meeting where you'll go more into this and give us all these great ideas so we can figure it out.
So, and as we do have questions, can we then, we need to set up a meeting with you to talk about the questions
You
or?
can set up a meeting.
email
You can
or-
send me an email.
Okay,
If it's a simple question and I can answer it via email, that's great. We want to schedule a call, we can do a call. Don't necessarily have to come into the office, but my door is open if you wanted to come in for a meeting. So, yeah.
okay. I guess my concern would be, that if not everybody understands, like, how do we make any progress by the
Right.
next meeting? So what do we do? Well, if we can't meet more than 3 of us, you know what I mean? How is that handled?
Well, I mean, we don't have to make a decision at the next meeting either. So I can do, as was suggested, gather some information, put that information together and bring it back and we can have additional discussions, right? So we don't have to, it's not, the council wasn't expecting a response after tonight's meeting or well, depending upon what we schedule for meetings too. But, it's something, this is what I needed. I needed to know, what information do you guys think would be valuable for me to bring back so that you might have a better understanding of this? So looking at what other cities are doing, or if they have policies and reviewing those, and then doing some maybe rate of returns of what we're getting out of our trust fund, versus if the money was in our regular accounts and where those investments go. So I can, those are things that I can bring back and we can have additional discussions in the meeting as well.
Thank you.
My concern is are 4 meetings this year going to be enough to help?
Well, that's
Because
the thing,
we're just gonna, we're just getting this off the ground again. It's been how many years, Councilmember Fossey, since the last 4 years? Okay.
no, oh, so
Since we've had a committee.
9.
Yeah.
So that is one of our future items on the agenda, is talking about scheduling our meetings. So
Okay.
so the committee is supposed to meet 4 times a year, but it doesn't mean you can't meet more than that. Yeah, so, but that is one of our other items that we're gonna cover tonight.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the members? Okay, so we'll go to public comment.
A public comment. Hi, this is Diego. One of the things that I wanted to say, I had a conversation with somebody on the budget advisory committee, and I let them know that the CalPERS obligation was 970,000 for 2026, 2027. But we elected to fund section 115 to 1.5 million. We overfunded section 115, knowing that we're facing a deficit. The previous year's deficit was 6 million across all GL accounts, and section 115 was overfunded. So we have to be more conservative even when it comes to section 115. So if section 115 was 970,000, why did we fund it to 1.5 million? Why weren't we a little bit more conservative? Why didn't we cap it at 1 million and use the 500,000 to cover other expenses in the GL? And that's my comment.
So, so for a point of clarification, the 970 is related to the unfunded through CalPERS. The 115 trust, was taken to the city council in January of 26. Those funds had been set aside previously from prior fiscal years and designated for that 115 trust for future year uses, you know, to smooth that. So the 115, I mean, it could certainly be his opinion that it was overfunded, but it wasn't out of this budget. It was out of prior years that those monies were taken from. And the 970 is completely separate. That is our CalPERS responsibility.
It might be helpful if you sent them the staff report that you did in January.
I can do that.
That might give you some more information on it. Okay.
Whoops. Okay, so we will go to our next item, 6.5, City Council Budget Priority Strategies to Address the City's Structural Deficit. So the City Council has referred this budget priority item to the Budget Advisory Committee. The committee's being asked to review the city's projected structural deficit. The goal is to discuss potential strategies to reduce the gap between ongoing revenues and ongoing expenditures. Committee feedback is intended to support future city council discussion on fiscal sustainability, service priorities, and long-term planning. Again, tonight, it is an introduction for feedback. Obviously, we're not going to have an answer at tonight's meeting. The city's projected general fund structural deficit for fiscal year 26-27 is 2.7 million. A structural deficit means the city's regular annual costs are projected to exceed its regular annual revenues. If nothing changes, the gap can continue into future years. Current projected deficit includes subsidies and other general fund service costs. The current year also includes a $1.2 million payment to a developer through a sales tax sharing agreement. That sharing agreement has an additional payment of $720,000 that's anticipated in the following fiscal year 27-28. The general fund currently has no debt. The only exception to that is what we call compensated absences. So at the end of the fiscal year, we calculate out vacation that is on the books that is potential cash out. Any hours on the books that could be cashed out by employees is considered compensated absences. And so that is calculated and added into the actuals. Our reserve level is currently estimated at 17%, and our required level is 13 to 15%. So here is the general fund subsidy to other fund activities. This chart is shared during our budget, and you can see it has grown over the years. In fiscal year 25-26, we added two new subsidies. That was our Sierra House transitional house lost its funding, and so that the general fund is supporting that. Our local redevelopment agency, which is our out at the Army Depot plant, federal funds stopped going to that. We lost that grant, so that added into the general fund for the fiscal year 25-26. So those were two ones that were added last year. And then as you can see, our budget, our recreation subsidy has grown. Although in the current fiscal year for 26-27, there is a slight decrease there of 7%. Neighborhood improvement, there is an increase there, but 25,000 of that is a one-time cost to update the software that they use to track code enforcement. And it goes along, it's a software that goes across our building and code enforcement and planning department. So it's split between those three departments. The community center, so that is our facility rentals, and it also includes some of the recreation programs or events. It has a proposed subsidy of 15,000. Our gas tax, so the gas tax monies that we receive do not cover what it takes us to maintain our streets and roads. And so we have been subsidizing that with the general fund, and that has grown over the years. And then again, the Sierra House and the LRA. Sierra House, we do have some potentials of other fundings, and we continue to look at that. So while it is budgeted, there is a chance that we would not have to completely fund all of that through the general fund.
Who was the originally, who defunded, or who was the funder for Sierra?
So we had a couple of different funds. There was a fund that was called ESG, and that one went away. Then we had received some monies from Senator Eggman, and we used that for 1 year. But then that was delegated to another project. And so now we are at the general fund with it. There is also PLHA funds. We lost out, we were able to cover some expenditures through the Sierra House. But in this, we just recently missed out on about, I think it was $70,000 in funds because our housing element was not adopted. And they, even though we adopted it shortly thereafter, they said at their time of review, it had to have been adopted. So we missed out on that, but we have the potential to get some of that PLHA funds, but we just didn't put them in the budget because it's not been guaranteed.
How many people does Sierra House serve on an annual basis?
8. That's what I'm thinking. The last numbers that they gave us, 7 or 8 is what they have given us. And we've gone back to council has asked for some additional information from Sierra House, some more statistics and stuff. So that is also being explored, and they've been asked to give us some additional numbers.
I don't think current occupancy is over 4 right now in Sierra House.
No, right now, but annually, I think, yeah, you're right. But you also have to remember Sierra House also has our shower facility, day use facility. So there are people that use the day use, multiple people that use the day use facility.
And so I usually have that, but I cleaned out. Oh, I did a presentation.
Yeah.
There's an email that I get when I go to my meetings. Oh, sorry. There's an email that I get from Maricela because I go to the Stanislaus Housing, Stanislaus Home, thank you, Homeless Alliance every month. Now it's every other month. And I report on the Sierra House. And I did, Maricela sent me all the stuff from my meeting last month. I will forward that to you so you can see the occupancy, and it gives the annual occupancy, but it also tells you how many people show up there for the showers, for the food. So the Sierra House isn't just the 4 people that are going through the program, which is really great. It's what is the people that are served throughout the community. So I want you to be able to see that on top of just the 4 residents. So I will get that to you.
Yeah, I think for Sierra, there's a few things. I think, difficult times are going to call for extreme measures. So I'll just say that in advance because I tend to have a lot of ideas. So a few things that I would love to consider is I know there are huge homeless initiatives countywide, in addition to, some of the other like senators and who we've partnered with in the past. So I just think it's really important to consider this is an all hands on deck scenario based on the deficit that we're talking about so that we can explore all of our options. So accountability is extremely important, reminding our senators of maybe the cost per participant and the impact this is having at the local level would be really important because again, $366,000, even if it benefited, X amount of people, we should consider revisiting how we are sharing that narrative, both at the state level, but even at the local level. And I dare say even some of our partnerships, your Rotaries, your others, right, to say, can you sponsor X amount of money or commit for, X per participant? We should be able to say and share publicly what the cost is per participant to see if we can maybe help offset that. Collaborations, I'm also curious, again, is this a city-only benefit or is this something where we can partner with the county at any level to leverage the cost? For the LRA, I'm not very familiar with living here my entire life, and I drive by there more times than I want to admit. I am not clear on what their role is and what purpose they are serving to our community. So if federal funds went away, is that fully a responsibility of our community to solve?
Yeah.
So that's just something I'm sitting with, right? So this might mean this is a time where shared accountability comes into play. And if it serves a very important role, what is the role? And therefore, or who else is impacted? Because if the feds pull out, then we also need to be able to look at others for that shared accountability, because we should not be held responsible to absorb the entire debt of something that was federally defunded. And if it is only a city responsibility, then I think it'd be great. And again, I feel that even it's probably on my own accountability. I should research this more, but I have lived here my entire life and I am not clear on what role and purpose they serve in our community. Then the last question I'm very curious about is clearly a big part of this deficit is coming from this developer fee. Are we able to know who the developer is and what exactly are we?
Yeah, actually, I have another slide for
Okay.
it too.
Can we schedule these people, our committee to do a tour of the facility, the LRA, so that they have an idea of what they are doing out there? I think it will help them. Plus, it's kind of cool to go out and see.
And if it's just me, I'm okay with that. I will go, but
No, I
it's
think it's very important that you all see this benefit to the city and what future benefit it could have. And when you go, I'd like to go with you so that, because every time I go, I find something new. So I think we should schedule that.
I've been and I've seen the benefits. I was fortunate enough to go on a tour. Yeah, I was fortunate enough to go on a tour and be invited by one of the council members to go, and the directors out there was very, very informative. I could see, but I also am concerned about the spending too. So, good. Thank you.
Feels like a lot of these are complex dances because, either you do something, whether it's the homelessness or the munitions plant, or else somebody does it to you. And usually having it done to you is less
One,
community oriented when they're done with their intervention, because I know what's it called? The Riverbank Industrial Complex, but it's
Yeah,
LRA,
that's the
Neat
LRA,
little-
yeah.
yeah.
great opportunity, but also has great liability.
Right, and the other thing that I need you guys to keep in mind and to try to find new ways is with the administration right now, we have lost a lot of grant funding from the government. Where can we get that from? This is one of them that we lost from the federal government. But they're still state and local, so, it'd be nice to have that, but it's also, we lost it this year, we might lose it the next 2 years, but when a new administration comes on, it could come back. I mean, it's just, right. It's like, what do we do in the meantime?
So this slide is not necessarily a subsidy, but it covers some fleet services that are transferred, and then the sales tax cost sharing agreement, which is for the Crossroads West Commercial Center. So that would be the newest commercial center that's being developed. So the developer put in infrastructure improvements, and through their negotiated agreement, there was a sales tax sharing obligation. Our total reimbursable amount is the 3.3 million. We have already reimbursed them 1.1 million. And then we are projected to do another 311,000 on top of that, based on fiscal year 25-26 sales tax. And then that would mean our projected remaining balance reimbursable on July 1st would be the 1.9 million. And if we reimburse them 1.2 during the fiscal year 26-27, then it would mean a remaining budget of 714,000, which would be due in the next fiscal year for 27-28. So the sales tax sharing agreement is 50% of sales tax generated within the commercial commercial development. So it does vary. These numbers are projected. So we could end up at the end of 27 where we may owe a little bit less or we owe a little bit more, but these were projected numbers there. But it doesn't change. The reimbursable amount is the reimbursable amount. That's the maximum that we would pay. Once it's reimbursed, it stops. So then this is just, I'm just sharing some input out there about things to think about, revenue potential opportunities that could help stabilize, our general fund, considering fees, service charges, grants, or economic development impacts, evaluate whether certain services recover at an appropriate share of their cost. A fee study is actually currently getting underway for the water fund, but that does not solve the general fund deficit. Any new changed or updated fees must follow a required legal process. So as a city, when we do any fees, we actually, we have to have that supporting documentation of why we are going to charge this fee and make sure that it is backed up by evidence and numbers. Expenditures, consider opportunities to reduce, defer, or better manage ongoing cost. Review of operational expenditures, identify operational efficiencies with process improvements or technology upgrades. Service level priorities, review program subsidies and whether current service levels remain sustainable. Consider which services should be prioritized, modified, reduced, or evaluated further. And then our reserves, our current level is projected at 17%. Reserves help the city respond to economic uncertainty and unexpected cost. One-time funds may be considered for transition strategies, temporary deficit mitigation, capital needs, or reserve stabilization. One-time resources should be relied on to solve, not be relied on to solve an ongoing structural deficit. Council is hoping the committee feedback, to get the committee feedback by mid-year budget process, which is typically presented to them in February. So we wait for December is where our 6-month cutoff is, and we look at those numbers, and February is usually when the mid-year is taken to the council. So with that, staff is looking for direction regarding when the committee would like to have this item brought back for additional discussion. And any information that you think might be helpful for us to bring back to you on this item.
Couple of questions. Number one, I think the sales tax sharing is going to Broman Development. Is that correct? I think Dr. Pineda asked who we're paying.
It's the developer. It's not necessarily Broman. The developer is sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily go to Roman. The developer agreement was with another company name. Yeah. Yeah. It starts with a W. Western Pacific Holdings. Yeah.
Second, last question for me, about the reserves. If we don't make any changes, or we, as a committee, we can't come to a recommendation, can all agree on something, is it safe to say that in 16 to 20 months they'll be depleted in current trends that we're spending? Or is this?
Yeah, I mean,
is it
beyond, it's not gonna be, well,
could it be 2 more years? What can we do? Is this sustainable if we do nothing for 2 years, 5 years, or will we actually burn through the reserves? Like,
we would,
I'm
I mean,
concerned about.
yeah, I think you're probably 18 to 24 months burning through the reserves.
Thank you.
And it'll also change too, like, cause remember that sales tax subsidy is a temporary one. So, that will give you some bounce back there. But I mean, yeah, 18 to 24 months.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the members?
Not questions, I think just, again, things to think about that are,
Sure.
calling out the facts is just, at some point, it becomes a domino effect that ends up, impacting city staff and our constituents. And so, it's great to have a thriving city. I love the way we're growing, but if we are not able to manage, and again, I'm not clear what the developer is, what it is that they did for us, but clearly that is a domino effect where then the impact could immediately be I'm going to say very small line items for all these other line items, right? Neighborhood, community centers, things that are extremely important that should not be impacted. And so, council members correct that the administration has impacted many of us. I personally was impacted in my own job. The federal funds completely took away a 5-year, commitment that they had made. But what that looks like is then if we want to at least sustain until the next administration, we need to be thoughtful. We need to be proactive. We should be responding in a way as if this was an earthquake and we have, items are going to be dug under the rubble that we're digging out. So we should not wait to then have to cut and impact our kids, our neighborhoods, our community members who, maybe never opted or would have voted for developers or things in that nature, right? So it's really important to be thoughtful, but also I think for me, it's always a sense of urgency when I'm in these scenarios. This is a true sense of urgency. So this is when I would really encourage anyone who wants to make a difference, including our council members and city staff, to go out and network, look for private donors. There are many private donors out in this community that want to do philanthropic work, who might want to be able to support us over the next 2 years until we figure out the next administration. If we're very clear about the impact of federal impact to our, Sierra home, or, or this debt we accrued, there might be private donors, there might be collaborations, there definitely grants. We should be actively looking for grants. And most of the time we are not grant writers, but this is where we come together and explore that. And I'm doing that for my own job. I'm actively looking for donors and grantors to get us through because of the impact from the federal level. Not what I anticipated to be doing, right? But here we are. This is, again, that's why I'm saying desperate times call for desperate measures. And so I love how the city has really become very homey, it's the place where people want to live. And that's not where people wanted to live when I was, in elementary school. We were the school that didn't have, people got shipped to go to different schools here. I mean, people in Waterford would, have to come to us, and it was, who's Riverbank? What do you guys have to offer, right? And now it's where everyone wants to live. That makes me very proud, but it can't be at the cost of decisions that are truly impacting some of our elderly and some of our kids. So I'm willing to be a thought partner, but really encourage us to be innovative, be willing to stretch ourselves thin and work for a community that we are facing we're paying the price of some very expensive decisions that should not hopefully be repeated, but should really be thought about as we move forward.
Just wanted to I agree with everything that's been said, and thank you for so well spoken. But for me, I don't want to sit around for 2 years and wait for the federal government to bail us out, because no matter who's in charge, America's broke. It's $40 trillion in debt. And I don't think any political party can save us. And I've had to face some serious challenges with my health this year, with my family. And I've never sat back and said, somebody's coming to save me. I just went out and did the best I can to make it better. And so I think that's what we all need to do, find ways, to just do what we can to help the city thrive.
And that's what council is looking for, is for you guys to be out there. We're all out there trying to figure out what to do too. I mean, I listen for grants and things, but we're looking for you to look at those opportunities that maybe we don't see. I never would have thought of finding people that maybe want to, take the Sierra House on. I think it's a great opportunity here for somebody to take that on. Let's look at it. Like I said, throw everything at the wall and let's see what comes out.
Okay, if there's no more comments, I'll open it up to public comment.
Diego, please go ahead.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to say that the comment that was made by the lady on council, I don't know her name. She's in the Budget Advisory Committee. It's an amazing comment. She made the same comment twice. And I agree with her entirely regarding decisions that have been made in the past, specifically Sierra House. Now, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe Sierra House got off the ground because of ARPA funds. So the American Rescue Plan Act, which was actually sold under Sean Scully, the city manager, as a budget reconciliation act, or a budget rescue act in the city of Riverbank. Under that act, there was another project that was done, which was the solar panels, which were done over the police department, and the majority of the project was done over the wastewater treatment facility. And they're supposed to have like a guaranteed performance. That project costs us annually $600,000. The Sierra House project costs us, we can't fund it anymore because the money's gone. So we made these decisions based on the fact that federal funds are available, and then they're not. And we still have a long-term expenditure to make. And to hear that comment from somebody on the Budget Advisory Committee, oh man, that makes me feel amazing because it makes us feel like finally someone is listening. We're making decisions based on what we can actually afford, not on the federal funds that are available because of COVID that Biden signed off in 2021 that we have long-term ramifications to pay for. We haven't even had a guarantee report on the solar panels over the wastewater treatment facility. We don't know if they're performing, but yet the water and the sewer have to pay $600,000 in perpetuity for that project. And then the Sierra House is back on the table because we have to do something with it. Right? So when I hear somebody on the Budget Advisory Committee mention these projects, it's, man, it's almost like the clouds are opening up and I can see the light. Finally, someone is actually making an honest decision, looking at the situation and making sense of what's happening. So thank you so much. And that's all I have to say. Sorry about my comment.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go to our next item, 6.6, City Council Budget Priority Deferred Staffing Request. City Council referred deferred staffing request to the Budget Advisory Committee for review. The committee is being asked to provide advisory input. The review will help determine whether any position should be considered during the mid-year budget review. Final decisions on staffing, funding, and budget amendments remain with the City Council. 4 staffing requests were identified during the budget process and deferred for further review. Each position is in a different department and location. All positions have general fund implementations. The combined question is not only is there a need, but also can the city responsibly support the ongoing cost? The deferred positions were an administrative clerk for community development and finance, which is in our City Hall South building for customer service and administrative support, a deputy city clerk in our administration building for records, meetings, compliance, and admin support, an engineering tech for development services for permit review, development review, and technical support. And then recreation and events coordinator for parks and recreation, program expansion, and operational support. The administrative clerk would support City Hall South, front counter service, provide customer service, record support, fee collection, clerical support, and preferably be have bilingual support. If deferred, potential of reduced customer service capacity and more administrative workload on professional staff. Deputy city clerk and admin supports record management, meeting support, compliance backup to the city clerk functions and advisory board support. Supports strategic plan direction related to boards, committees, oversight, and accessibility to city council. If deferred, reliance on a single employee for statutory duties and limited capacity for records and meeting support. The engineering tech position in our development services supports encroachment permit review, development review, field coordination, and engineering workload. It may reduce reliance on consultants and improve our responsiveness. Risk of deferred, slower permitting processing, consultant reliance, and succession planning concerns. Recreation and events coordinator and parks and recreation supports recreation programs, special events, facility rentals, and community activities. May increase program revenue, facility rental revenue, sponsorships, and partnerships. Risk of deferred, limited ability to expand programs, and continued workload concentrated on the current staff. I've provided the committee with some questions for potential discussion. Again, this item is being presented tonight. We're not expecting an answer tonight. It is something that we can consider at future meetings. Potential questions would be considering operational need and service impact, which positions address the most immediate operational or compliance need, which positions improve public service levels and customer service transparency or responsiveness, what are the risks of continuing to defer a position, fiscal and strategic considerations, which positions support city council priorities or strategic plan implementation, which positions may generate revenue, improve cost recovery, or reduce consultant or contract cost. How should each request be weighed against projected revenues, expenditures, reserves, and the city's structural budget position? Possible direction from the committee. Should any position be recommended for consideration at mid-year? Should the request instead be evaluated through the next annual budget process? If funding is limited, should the committee recommend prioritizing positions, phasing positions and overtime, or identifying alternate service delivery options? So again, throwing out a lot of information at you for your guys' consideration, and not expecting an answer tonight. But I will allow any questions or feedback of information that you might want brought back with this item.
Sorry, when you said read and come prepared, I kind of took it very literal. So I do have some ideas that I want to throw out. And I, again, offer just because I want to suggest strategies. I want to be part of the solution if anything helps. So for all positions are important. I think public service is both a call and a duty and a profession. And so I want to preface that by saying I am very proud to see not just the current staff is clearly doing an exceptional job because Riverbank is definitely on the map. We are definitely meeting the City of Action statement. That being said, I think it's extremely important to think again strategically. What are other cities similar to our size? What are their staffing capacities? It's always great to get a recommendation on positions because staff are the experts and they are seeing or expressing their capacity, right? See the need. But it would be very helpful to know what other cities are doing and their staffing size and their models to see if there's anything there we might want to replicate. I also suggest, considering when you phase in new positions, there should always be some sort of policy adopted to the process. So what does that look like? Maybe we do the study first, and for every 2,000 new residents, that impacts a 0.5 or 1.0 FTE admin clerk. So then that should be both a policy and a strategy we're thinking of as we are looking at growth and seeking where the revenue is going to come from to support that so that it could be added to the budget. And then just when we're there in that moment, then it's more of a flow that it's brought up for approval because now we've grown and we have this need so that staff are not put in a position of both morale, impact to our residents, wait times, all of those domino effect things. So, and that should really be looked at for all positions because they're all important. The other piece is succession planning. So, one example is that I do see the assistant to the clerk, and Gabby is doing, I think, a phenomenal job. I am inspired by seeing that we have hired local talent and how great she is exemplifying her role in the community. What does that look like for our students? What does that look like for our local talent? So planning ahead or only having one position of that for such a vital role, I think is instrumental. I happen to be the one of the committee members who didn't make it to the day of the swearing in, and I had to wait for the clerk to, come back. That tells me a lot, for me to get my oath done. It not to her fault, but that tells us where we're at in succession planning, right? What does that look like for the future? What does that look like in a time of emergency? We don't have a backup plan, right? But I also wonder about when we're in a need and as we're trying to explore and I'm just giving a lot of extra work and not immediate solutions, internships, have also, coming from an education standpoint, from a social work standpoint, I have had exceptional success stories and experience, firsthand experience by opening the doors. And succession planning doesn't always have to involve money, but having the leadership of who's our leaders now, and opening the door and paving the way to creating an opportunity for the talent to come in. I know we're opening the doors with our youth group, our youth leadership group, but what about creating college level or, X amount of level category internships where then there is an interview process and opportunity, just like us, maybe that we want to give back. It could be even a retired folk who might want to come back and give service. It could be at the front desk, but instead then we use our resources on some more specialized skills, or vice versa. Maybe we open up the doors for a high level intern in grad school who wants to be an engineer, right? So what does that really look like, especially modeling public service in a time where, as a nation, there is a lot of divide and, I dare say, low morale of what public service could look like as a career. So, I'm here because I love public service, I love community work, and I love public administration. I don't know a lot of people that want to hang out for 4 hours in their evening having this conversation. I do. Not everyone does, but some people are out there like us. So really thinking, again, innovatively around, do we have any kind of internship? One of my personal internships was at the Housing Authority. That is where I learned about community development. I was on the path to be a developer and working with CDBG and HUD and ESG funds. So you would never think that now, but internships are life transforming and could help students be our future and be a plan for succession planning as well. So I wanted to really offer that up.
Any other comments?
I will say I appreciate that completely, but there is a financial factor to that. So I think a lot of times when you have interns or you have temps, you have a lot of, costs that go along with those. So I think with the situation that we're in with the budget, we would really have to consider both sides of it.
Yes, and to clarify, I'm talking about non-paid internships. So to be very clear, and I've had many, I've had many non-paid internships where students will gladly take the opportunity and then find time elsewhere to, leverage their own financial situation for the experience. But thank you, I didn't clarify that.
Okay, any other questions? Oh, go ahead.
Thank you. My biggest concern would be to look at, as soon as possible, would be getting a deputy city clerk. I currently feel like Gabby's stretched out too thin. She just wears the hats of too many people, and I think we need the help. I mean, that would be one. I mean, don't get me wrong, I hate to spend more money than we take in, but elections coming up, and wow, I feel like she has too much on her plate already. For engineering technician, I would love to hear what the building part, I would love to get feedback from the building department and see what the wait times are, if there's any delays. I mean, I look over at Crossroads West and it seems like there's a new building going up just like that. I don't ever hear, about Trader Joe's. I had to wait, 2 years to get a permit, or, I don't. So I would love to know Parks and Recreation. I've had conversations with the director. I believe they are understaffed, but I don't know, I don't know enough to give an opinion on that. But the one that really stands out to me, and it's getting a deputy city clerk, or trying to find a way to work there. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, so we'll go to our next item, future meeting schedule. Purpose of this item is to discuss the Budget Advisory Committee's preferred future meeting schedule. Confirm whether the committee wants to meet quarterly, every other month, monthly during the initial period, quarterly plus special meetings, or more frequently during budget season. The Budget Advisory Committee is required to meet at least 4 times per year. The initial schedule contemplated was quarterly meetings following the end of each quarter, so July, October, January, and April. Future regular meetings would need to be scheduled on the fourth Wednesday of the applicable month based on the availability in the council chambers. Additional meetings should allow enough time for staff to prepare the agenda materials, do our public notice, and then compliance with our applicable public meeting requirements and committee member availability. Just an outline of some of the options that were put out there, the quarterly meetings, the every month. Every other month would be approximately 6 meetings in the year. Monthly during the initial period could be considered. And then, or we could do quarterly meetings plus special meetings when we feel needed. Or we could do what is called like a budget schedule where we're doing maybe quarterly, but during the budget time, we meet a little bit more often. So we're asking direction from the committee tonight, preferred meeting frequency. So future meetings can be scheduled on the available fourth Wednesdays and then planned with sufficient time for agenda preparation and public noticing. So discussions, thoughts, where we might want to go?
I'd have to say like bi-monthly. To get a feel for it in the beginning. I mean, where are you guys at?
For me, I don't know that I can commit to that, just because I upfront said yes to the amount of meetings that were on the schedule. I would love to, but I'm also a mom and have sports, and I travel around the country for work. That being said, I do think there is a need to be able to, I kind of like one of the last ones where like during the initial period, and what I'm thinking when I hear that is how great would it be, I think, if we would just have had a little bit more time as a group to really, like, I don't want to assume, but to really have walked through the strategic plan, because it is a brand new strategic plan. And I think that's important, so that we're very clear on the priorities of, the city and what the council has prioritized, because that is the framework. You did a great job at having the slide and walking us through it, but I was looking for it. Like, I love that kind of stuff. So I was like, whoa. But had that been, I think, like right in front of us, even as a pre-meeting on Zoom, that was not a formal meeting, might have positioned us a little bit better for today's meeting. So I don't know what that looks like, but I felt like just 1 hour there, and then maybe another hour elsewhere, again, on Zoom or in a platform that maybe isn't an actual quote unquote formal meeting, so that we could, maybe it's right after the budget is adopted in, when we go into budget planning in January. Does
So
that make sense?
it makes sense, except for we are required to do public meetings.
Right. So that's what I'm trying to think
yeah.
out loud. Like, what does that look like?
Could you provide more context if we do the quarterly plus special meetings, what the special meetings in terms of attendance needed?
So whenever we schedule a meeting, we need to have at least a quorum,
Okay,
right?
the three.
The 3. So if, like in this case, we are, we're just starting out and I've thrown so much information at you guys tonight, and we say, can we meet next month? So we guarantee we're going to do quarterly, but we can decide to have an extra meeting if we need it.
That seems like probably a
That would
good
be
option.
my preference as well.
So like tonight, you guys could direct staff, like whether we wait till the next quarterly meeting or if we want to schedule another meeting before that quarterly meeting. So our next quarterly meeting would be in October. Between now and October, did you want to try to meet again and do some more follow-up information on these topics?
I was gonna say, I think, all the city staff have lives, and so probably building a schedule for a year is helpful for people who have to support this, because then all the people know where they're supposed to be when you can do the support. So it might be good to be reactive, but it might be difficult. And then I don't know, like when people plan if you can put all the meetings in, at least you've consciously not attended if you know there's a meeting there or not. So I guess we could for a while do temporary meetings, but it might be good.
Yeah, and I mean, if we planned out for the end of the year right now, right? If we planned, do we want to do October? And then, or do we want to do something before October? After October would be January. Do we want to do something in between there? So if we laid those out now, maybe that would be helpful for everybody. And it's up to your discretions.
Well, I think it should align too with what the expectations for city council is. So any deadlines that are upcoming, if we need to meet beforehand, we can add that special meeting in.
So then mid-year, well, that would actually, we probably wouldn't even want to cover that until in January because it would go to the council in February. But obviously there's discussions before that, discussions regarding maybe all of these items really, right? So is there a desire to do a meeting in September and October? I know once you get into November and December, it gets harder because that's a lot of holidays. So would we want to do like one extra meeting between now and October, if that's possible?
If we were to add an extra meeting, I would prefer to do it before the holidays.
I would prefer to meet in September and October if we're gonna
Yeah.
have an extra meeting.
Yes.
We do have the ability, if we do have a quorum and you guys want to set the schedule for September and October, that if we have the three, and one of you is out, you can Zoom in to the meeting. So we can, as long as we notice it, but that would entail that we have it scheduled ahead of time so that we can set it all together for someone if you're out of the country or out of state or somewhere traveling or somewhere where you can't be physically here, that you could Zoom into the meeting. So that is a possibility. Yes, but like I said, we would have to post it and notice it.
Yeah, and I remember discussing that in the interview process, that was an option. And so I want to be helpful, but I don't want to hinder the process. But yeah, and for me, September, October is peak conference season where I travel a lot. So I just want to be really transparent. That's when a lot of conferences tend to, when school reasons.
In September? Do you have your calendar?
I don't have my work calendar with me, no, but I mainly travel during the week, so during weekdays. I don't know.
It may be a good idea too, if we could have the October meeting, see how that goes. If it's clear we need additional time, then maybe we set the special meeting till afterwards.
Think
Because I'm willing to Zoom in
November
if
and
it works.
December challenge, because the fourth Wednesdays are gonna be, I'm not looking at a calendar, but I'm sure the fourth Wednesday in December is not good.
Mhm. So maybe September, and that we're in July, so maybe September.
As I talk, I realize when you said conferences, there's a Cal Cities League conference the week that we would typically have this, the 23rd. And that's the day that we leave for the conference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But well, huh? Oh, yeah, we could do the 30th of September potentially.
Is that after Memorial Day? Yeah, right. Or,
Yeah.
That's
Labor
the end.
Day is at the beginning of September.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so it would be September 30th and then our meeting in October would be October 28th. Does that sound okay with everyone? I know you don't have your schedule.
Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah.
The September one seems okay right
Okay.
now off the top of my mind.
Yeah, it would be 6 o'clock. We would keep our meetings at 6 o'clock unless there's a desire to move it up a half hour or something, like 5:30. I don't know what everybody's schedule is. I set 6 o'clock
6
just
is
to make
fine.
sure that, we had availability, so. Yes,
Do we have to make a motion for it?
yes, please. I was
I-
just gonna say there.
Does it matter that I'm pretty sure the October date was the one that upfront I had said I had a feeling I would have to zoom in or might not be able to attend
And
the
that's fine.
October one.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, I'll make a motion to add the September 30th meeting here at 6 o'clock.
I'll second.
And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I
Okay, all right, thank you. So then we will schedule the additional September 30th meeting. Okay, so our next section of the agenda is staff comments. I've spoke enough tonight. But I will say again, I appreciate you all coming tonight. I know it's been a long meeting. And I know I gave you a lot of information. Please feel free to reach out to me if you want to sit down and discuss something or have some additional questions. I will keep it open. Councilmember Fossey, did you have any comments that you would like to say tonight?
Just want to thank you for taking the time to be on this committee, and I look forward to working with you. And please feel free to contact me via email or phone anytime you have any questions. I'll try not to have to defer you somewhere else.
And then we also have a section where committee members can make comments. So Member Pineda, did you have any comments that you would like to make tonight?
made probably any comments. Thank you to all of you. Thank you. Thank you for all the work that you all do.
Thank you. Member Christie, did you have any comments tonight?
Thank you. And I just wanted to reiterate, I look forward to working with everybody and doing whatever we can to help the community and help the city council and staff in any way possible. Thank you.
Vice Chair Derlard?
Oh, yes, thank you guys for all the work that you do, and I'm excited to be a part of the Budget Advisory Committee. But I'm really excited to work together to find sustainability, specifically with the immense growth that's going on here in Riverbank.
And Chair Linus?
again, thank you guys all, and I'm very excited to work with you all and come up with those ideas as well. So I look forward to future meetings.
And Member Heinziker.
I just echo everyone and enjoyed tonight's meeting.
All right. Well, with that, we will call our meeting adjourned at 9:07.